Intra-abdominal pressure is the natural pressure or force within the abdominal cavity that pushes against the abdominal wall and the internal organs. This pressure is necessary in order to stabilize the spine. It gives the spine the strength to resist unwanted motion, while also allowing the muscles surrounding the spine to generate and transfer the necessary forces required for purposeful total body movement. The ability to harness and control intra-abdominal pressure is the essence of core strength. It is arguably the most important movement skill we can learn because every multi-joint movement requires spinal stability. Therefore, if we want to move safely, purposefully, and efficiently with the correct amount of strength, power, speed, and endurance, we must make sure that we can generate and maintain the ideal amount of intra-abdominal pressure. The amount of intra-abdominal pressure is regulated by the diaphragm, our main breathing muscle, the pelvic floor, the group of muscles at the bottom of our torso, located between our thighs, in other words, the muscles that we sit on, and the transversus abdominis, our deepest abdominal muscle, which wraps horizontally around the abdomen like a corset. Together, these muscles are referred to as our deep core. While oscillations in intra-abdominal pressure are constantly occurring depending on whether we're inhaling or exhaling, optimal cooperation between the diaphragm, pelvic floor, and transversus abdominis allows us to maintain a relatively constant intra-abdominal pressure throughout our daily lives. For example, when we're walking, standing, sitting, or lying down. However, large increases in intra-abdominal pressure are needed when the demand on spinal stabilization increases. For example, when we pick something heavy up off the ground. In the case of lifting a heavy object, our diaphragm contracts, moves downwards, and flattens fully. This pushes the contents of the abdominal cavity against the abdominal wall and pelvic floor, causing the transversus abdominis and pelvic floor muscles to lengthen. This coordinated activity of the diaphragm, pelvic floor, and transversus abdominis increases intra-abdominal pressure, which stabilizes the spine and gives us the core strength necessary to complete the movement task. When lifting something heavy or performing any other maximal effort movement, it is possible to hold our breath and use the diaphragm solely to maintain maximum intra-abdominal pressure. But when demanding movements last more than a few seconds, as is the case for most things we do, especially the majority of sports, we need to breathe. So, the diaphragm has two jobs. One, it has to contract in order to increase intra-abdominal pressure and support the spine. And two, it has to contract to bring air into the lungs and relax to allow air out of the lungs. Therefore, during taxing activities, the diaphragm not only has to flatten and create maximum pressure, but it also has to move differently in this flattened position to allow for breathing. Coordination between the diaphragm's stabilizing function and breathing function is the most difficult task we can ask the diaphragm to do, especially as movement complexity or intensity increases. If we're unable to maintain the diaphragm's stabilizing function, either because the demand for breathing is too great or the demand for strength, speed, and endurance is too great, then we will resort to compensatory movement strategies, which compromise the synergy between the deep core muscles, overload the spine, create muscle imbalances, and cause poor posture. We don't want that. So let's practice how to increase intra-abdominal pressure and breathe at the same time.